Meh.
Okay, what is up guys? Andy here, Vine Outdoors. Today, I'm going to rank my top 15 Gamelands for deer hunting in North Carolina. Not only that, but if you stick around to the very end, I'm actually going to talk about two incredible limited access public land hunting areas in North Carolina that are not Gamelands, and literally no one knows about these areas. I'm going to preface this real quick by saying that between myself and Morgan, we've hunted North Carolina just about east to west and have covered most of the 94 Gamelands between hunting, jet antler hunting, and scouting, so we do have a good bit of experience here. And between trail camera pictures, shed antlers, and big buck racks, I think I have all the proof necessary to show that North Carolina Gamelands hold some big bucks. So I've compiled my list of 15 favorite Gamelands from all over the state and 2 limited access special entry hunts. So enough of me yapping about what I'm going to tell you, let me just tell you. Number 15 on my list is Sandhills Gameland. Now if you go there, you're going to find a lot of sand and a lot of pine trees. However, you'll also find creek bottoms, state planted food plots, and clear cuts. Sandhills Gameland is a 3-day per week area, meaning you can hunt Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. This definitely restricts your flexibility, but it also reduces hunting pressure, so it's a bit of a trade-off. From my experience, Sandhills Gameland is really popular among small game hunters and hunters who use dogs for deer drives, so you'll have a lot of other hunters to contend with. However, I will mention they do have fox squirrels out here, so if you're out for an opportunity to kill an elusive black fox squirrel, this might just be your spot. As far as deer hunting goes though, it's a great Gameland to hunt, but the biggest letdown in my mind is the pressure. However, keep in mind that you can use the pressure to your advantage as well, because deer are going to move around more when they're constantly being spooked and bumped by other people and dogs. As far as specific strategy goes though, if you're on Sandhills Gameland, you definitely want to be on an edge of some sort that funnels the deer. Deer always take the path of least resistance, and that usually means they let edges funnel their movements. The most common and maybe best type of edge in the Sandhills Gameland is going to be where you have an open canopy upland pine forest and a closed canopy thicker creek bottom. According to the NC Wildlife website, quote, "Some of the most diverse plant communities on Sandhills Gameland are found within and at the edges of drains managed with fire. And these areas are a focal point of wildlife activity, including turkey nesting, deer foraging and bedding, quail foraging and escape cover, tree frog foraging and breeding, and songbird nesting and foraging." If you're wondering how you can find these edges, that's actually really easy. Open up your satellite imagery and look for where the map looks greener and thicker. These are the drainages, and the edges of these concentrate a lot of deer movement. Alternatively, you can go to ncwildlife.org and look up the Sandhills Gameland Management Plan. Scroll to the bottom of their PDF to the appendices, and they have maps available that show where the drainages are and where the upland forests are. I'll link that in the description below. So moving on, number 14 on my list is Holly Shelter Gameland. Holly Shelter is definitely your stereotypical Carolina coastal plain Gameland, similar to Croatan, Angola, or farther south, the Francis Marion National Forest in South Carolina. Holly Shelter Gameland is full of pine, swamps, snakes, skeeters, and bears. However, there are some really big bucks down here too. Holly Shelter Gameland was previously a 3-day per week area, but that has changed and hunters are now given 6 days a week to hunt. However, hunting with the aid of dogs is still restricted to Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Before you hunt Holly Shelter, I'd definitely take a look at the regs, as there are some areas on the Gameland that have more specific regulations. Similar to most coastal plain Gamelands, you can't go wrong hunting ridges rising out of the swamps, or along areas where the Poccasin environment borders a different environment, whether that be a higher pine stand, a hardwood drainage, or a cane thicket, or whatever else. Number 13 on my list is South Mountain Gameland. South Mountain Gameland is really awesome because you start getting west enough that you're really getting that mountain feel, and you can start using the terrain to your advantage. However, being in Rutherford County, you still have the advantage of higher deer densities that the Piedmont offers. With a deer density around 30 to 40 deer per square mile, you'll likely see way more deer than if you were hunting farther west in the Pisgah or Nantahala National Forests, where deer densities are sometimes under 10 deer per square mile. Also, South Mountain Gamelands is a 7-day per week area, meaning that as long as it's deer season and you're complying with Gameland regulations, you can hunt. That's a huge plus in my eyes. South Mountain Gamelands can definitely be overlooked because At just over 22,000 acres, it's way smaller than some of the big name Gamelands that are fairly close by, such as Pisgah or Uwharrie. However, it does have a track record for pumping out some massive bucks, so I'd definitely give it a try if you live fairly close by. Number 12 is Croatan Gameland. At 166,000 acres, Croatan is definitely your biggest East Coast Gameland, and it comes with the benefit of being able to hunt any day of the week you would like. Croatan National Forest holds a lot of pines, drainages, and swamps, with a lot of burn units that generate high-quality deer forage. This leads to some really nice bucks going down there, including this brute of a 10-pointer. The biggest ones tend to come out of Jones and Craven County, but don't let that make you overlook the areas of the Gameland closer to the coast. Croatan has a really big road system, meaning it's hard to get off the beaten path. However, there are still ways to find low-pressure areas on the Gameland, as there's plenty of room to spread out. Coming in at number 11, we have Pisgah National Forest. Sprawling over 500,000 acres in 12 counties of the rugged Appalachian Mountains, Pisgah is a beast. It takes a dedicated hunter to find success in this terrain, but there is no shortage of deer, although deer densities do tend to be lower. Last year, hunters harvested over 600 deer there, including nearly 500 bucks on this Gameland. As far as strategy goes, hunters in these parts can really use terrain to their advantage. Saddles, ridges, benches, points, and draws, to name a few, are all key features that funnel deer activity. Additionally, clear cuts, state-planted food plots, and logging roads can concentrate deer. Because Pisgah is such a vast, unbroken forest, hunters can get very far from the road if they would like. I would recommend that hunters take a look at the deer density map the North Carolina Wildlife Commission puts out to find the best spots. And that'll be linked below in the description, so you can definitely check that out. Burke and Caldwell counties hold higher populations of deer, which could lead to better hunts. Coming in at number 10, we have the Nantahala National Forest. In many respects, it's essentially the same as the Pisgah. Covering 527,000 acres, that's over 500,000, it's the biggest Gameland in the state, and deer harvest numbers reflect that fact. Last year, hunters harvested a whopping 769 deer there, leading up the state for both overall deer harvest numbers as well as buck harvest numbers, 648. However, while there are plenty of deer in the Nantahala, they are definitely spread out, with parts of the National Forest holding less than 10 deer per square mile. Hunters will really have to cover ground and find the isolated pockets that harbor deer. The rule of thumb I follow when hunting Pisgah and Nantahala, and other areas of low deer densities, is that 95% of the deer are in 5% of the area. On the Piedmont and in areas with higher deer densities, the forest tends to be a little more forgiving, and you may still see a deer even if you're not in the money. However, out west, finding the right spot is crucial to your hunting success. Now, before we go much farther, I'm just going to give you my 30-second speech on where to find big bucks on public land in North Carolina. You may have noticed, but most of the Gamelands I've mentioned so far have been from the east and west parts of the state. In my opinion, and actually this is not just my opinion, this is backed up by research, but the biggest bucks, the highest deer densities, and the best hunting is found in the Piedmont. The closer you get to the middle of the state, the better the hunting gets. There is great deer hunting out west and out east, don't get me wrong, but the best Gamelands for high deer densities and healthy deer populations hail from the middle of the state. That is why, you will notice, the farther we get on this list, the more you'll see from the middle, around central North Carolina. Okay, back to it. Number 9 on my list is Harris Gameland, an 11,000 acre Gameland circling the banks of, you guessed it, Lake Harris. This Gameland is definitely an awesome place to hunt, and water access can play a huge role in getting away from people and entering your hunting areas stealthily. Also, keep in mind that the water plays an enormous role in thermal activity, meaning you could use the thermals to your advantage and beat the deer's nose. Harris Gameland has relatively high deer densities, and there are lots of deer funnels, including clear cuts, swamps, and of course the lake itself. Hunters on Harris should have no problem finding deer. Number 8 is Sandy Mush Gameland, another mountain Gameland. Sandy Mush Gameland is just under 3,000 acres, but in my mind offers much better hunting than either Pisgah or Nantahala. Although the giant national forests offer a hunting environment where you could hunt a week straight and never see another person, Sandy Mush offers a better overall deer environment with more prescribed burning and lots of early successional habitat, which leads to more and bigger deer. As far as Gamelands in the western part of North Carolina go, I'd say it's really hard to beat Sandy Mush. Okay, number 7 on my list is the Yadkin River Gameland. Some of the smaller parcels on this Gameland are easily overlooked but can produce mega bucks. I like to look for sections that border private ag fields. Oftentimes the deer bed on public ground in thicker woods and then travel to nearby ag fields and clear cuts to feed by night. Finding a travel corridor on public land somewhere in between could be your ticket to a North Carolina public land buck. Rolling in at number 6, we have Jordan Gameland. Jordan is definitely an amazing gameland for hunters who are blessed to live in the Raleigh area. Jordan Gameland has a really nice mix of pines and hardwoods. Especially toward the south side of the lake, there are a lot of ag fields bordering the Gameland, and finding a transition area where bucks are moving on or off the public can make an incredible hunting setup. Much like Harris Gameland and many of NC's Gamelands, its proximity to water makes it ideal for water access and taking advantage of predictable thermal patterns. Also, if you're a bow hunter, keep in mind that the archery-only areas that Jordan Gameland has to offer have some incredible limited entry hunting opportunities. Because archery-only areas tend to be closer to urban areas, deer populations are typically higher and deer may be more complacent to human intrusion. And now, real quick, before we move into my top 5 favorite Gamelands in the state of North Carolina, if this video has been helpful, please hit that like button for us. That'll really help and make sure that we can continue to bring you quality content like this. Okay, enough said. Here's my top 5. Number 5 on the list is Butner Falls of the Noose Gamelands. This Gameland is very similar to Jordan Gameland and Harris and several other North Carolina Gamelands. In fact, Jordan and Falls of the Noose Gameland are within 18 acres in size of each other and only a few miles apart. This one is north of Raleigh, while Jordan is due west. Both border large reservoirs, and for the most part the environment is quite similar. However, according to the North Carolina harvest statistics, Butner Falls of the Noose produces significantly more harvests than Jordan, 484 last year to Jordan's 315. This may just be because it's more conveniently located for hunters in the Triangle area. To be entirely honest though, there's really no significant difference between this Gameland and the Jordan Gameland. Simply hunt the area closest to you. Again, like Jordan and Harris, thinking smart about how you can use water to your advantage will elevate your hunting to a whole new level. And if you're a bow hunter, definitely look into the archery-only areas here. Number 4 on our list is Petey River Gameland. This is a little gem of less than 7,000 acres tucked down south of Uwharrie and Yadkin Gamelands, but a jewel it is. This Gameland has a long track record of producing mega-sized bucks, and my shed antler hunting last year definitely confirmed that reality. Petey Gameland consists mainly in smaller parcels up and down the banks of the Petey River, hence the name. This lends itself to some great kayak access hunts for the adventurous soul. NC Wildlife does have resources available on this Gameland, linked below, that will show you the exact locations of logging cuts, pine stands, hardwood forests, and even beaver dams, which is pretty incredible if you ask me. Now for the top 3. Number 3 is Caswell Gamelands. Caswell Gamelands is only a 3-day per week area, and they do have somewhat restrictive hunting regulations, but this results in more bucks making it to maturity. Caswell County has a long track record for producing some of North Carolina's biggest bucks, and Caswell Gameland is no exception. Not only does this Gameland consistently produce massive bucks, it also hosts an incredible population of deer, with a higher deer density here than most public lands in the state. It's hard to go hunting here and not see at least something. Additionally, Caswell Gamelands is one of the most well-managed gamelands in the state, with exceptional food plots, thinned timber stands, burn units, and even a program for farmers to plant ag fields on the Gameland. Most Gamelands in the state do not have the opportunity to hunt directly over ag fields. However, keep in mind that ag fields aren't necessarily the end-all be-all to killing big bucks, although they certainly help. Again, head down to the description to find the link for the Caswell Gamelands Management Plan, which gives away the location of burn units, drainages, forest species compositions, early successional habitat, and much more. Okay, number 2 on the list is Upper Roanoke River Gameland. Now, very important note, this is a permit-only hunt. You have to actually apply and pay a $5 fee to get their permit. However, there's no quota for bow hunting, so obtaining a permit is not hard if your bow is your weapon of choice. Rifle permits are a little harder to obtain, but still not overly challenging, and well worth it. This process deters a lot of hunters, but let me tell you, they are missing out. Roanoke River Gamelands might just be the best place in the state to kill a public land giant like these 2 studs. or this Goliath-sized 8-pointer. This is one of the most fertile places in the state for agriculture, leading to a very, very healthy population of deer. This area has the perfect balance of nutrient-rich corn and soy fields, along with cover that provides quality bedding and browse. If you're serious about killing big bucks, this is a game land you don't want to miss. Now, my favorite game land in the entire state, and I have to admit, this is partly because I've hunted it so much and know it so well, but this is Uwharrie National Forest. Uwharrie National Forest is an incredible, diverse smattering of properties scattered throughout the Piedmont along the PD reservoir chain. Uwharrie has everything from 5 to 30 acre parcels behind neighborhoods to the massive Burkhead Wilderness if you want a taste of big woods hunting without having to travel all the way to Pisgah or Nantahala. I have more experience hunting Uwharrie than any other game land in the state, and I can attest that it is an awesome spot to enjoy God's creation in the deer woods. One strategy that has worked very well for me in the Uwharrie is setting up along little drainages leading between multiple clear cuts, or draws leading from a clear cut up to an oak ridge. There are lots of oak trees in the Uwharrie, so definitely take advantage of that hard mast. It can definitely play big time into hunting strategy. So there you have it, in my opinion, the top 15 game lands in the state. However, this video is far from over yet. I'm going to share with you now 2 of the best public land hunting opportunities in North Carolina that fly under the radar because they're not game lands. First, Fort Liberty. Fort Liberty, previously known as Bragg, has really been overlooked until more recently. It has gained popularity in recent years only after it spit out a few giant bucks, including a Dixie Deer Classic winner this year that grossed over 175 inches. I've been personally hunting the ranges at Liberty since I was 13, and I know that it holds some giant bucks. If you do want to hunt there, you have to complete a specific hunter safety course offered by the base, and buy a permit, which will typically run you about $40 for the year. Also, keep in mind that there is a protocol to check in and out of hunting areas, and units are frequently closed down for military training. The typical hunt week runs from Wednesday through Sunday, although this is prone to sudden changes. Fort Liberty is your classic North Carolina sandhills environment of pines, little drainages, and a few bottomland hardwoods scattered throughout. The ticket to success, in my opinion, is to stay on the edge of the drainages, but remember that not all drainages are created equal. Only boots on the ground scouting and maybe some trail cam intel will tell you which ones are being used and which ones aren't. Deer densities are low on Liberty and hunting is admittedly very challenging, but the rewards are well worth your effort as you have a real chance at the buck of your lifetime here. Now, the second permit-only hunt. This takes place at the PD National Wildlife Refuge. Every year, the refuge sets up designated hunting weekends, usually Thursdays through Saturdays. These 3-day rifle hunts are offered only 4 times a year, not counting the Youth Day and a 3-day muzzleloader hunt. Historically, they have also offered a disabled hunter weekend. This means that there are only 12 days a season that are open to hunting, and only if you have a permit, and the permits only run for 3 days, so you can't hunt there more than 3 days. However, the hunting is incredible. It's unlike anything I've ever seen off of North Carolina public lands in my life. Permits go on sale usually in July or August every year, and are usually sold within a day or 2 of hitting the market. They aren't that expensive, around $20 or so if I remember correctly. However, hunters are limited to purchasing only 1 weekend to hunt per year, but success rates are high with lots of ag and protected deer populations. The PDNWR regularly produces big bucks, such as this one taken a few seasons back. And if you're just going out there to put meat in the freezer, PD is definitely your spot. With a little bit of scouting beforehand and playing your cards wisely during the hunt, there is a really good chance that you can fill up your freezer with a deer or 3. However, here's the real secret. Although it is quite a painful process to try to get a rifle permit for the refuge, you can bow hunt the refuge in the early season without any permit at all. This is an opportunity few hunters capitalize on, but it is well worth it. Just make sure to really study up on the rules for hunting the refuge, as there are some specific regulations, such as a ban on trail cameras, that will affect your hunting. Overall, PD National Wildlife Refuge is one of my favorite spots to hunt in the state, and I have some very treasured memories of our annual PD National Wildlife Refuge deer camp we used to do with some friends. So transitioning now, I know that especially during this time of year, it can be really easy to get completely consumed with deer hunting and dream about giant bucks and let that obsession completely rule our lives. Or at least it's easy for me to do. However, we need to remember that while hunting is awesome and the pursuit of this beautiful animal is an amazing thing, that is not all there is to life. There is ultimately something more important at the end of the day. We exist for the glory of God. That's why God made you. That's why He made me. Not only that, he made us with a purpose that extends beyond hunting. Our purpose is to glorify him and seek to make his name great. We are made for relationship with God. In fact, God loved us so much, he desired to have a relationship with us so much that he sent his one and only Son into the world to die for us, to take our sins on the cross. He sacrificed his life so that we might live. But as you know, he didn't stay in the tomb. Jesus rose again, conquered sin and death, and ascended to the right hand of God. As a result, we can be saved. We can be forgiven. We can have eternal life. You guys probably know this. You've heard it before in Sunday school, but this is the true story of the world. You can accept Jesus today if you haven't already done so, and let him change your life and give you new purpose, new meaning, new definition. And if you already believe, make sure that you're always striving to keep the first things first. Deer hunting sure is awesome, but don't let it crowd out God in your life. Always make sure that, as 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, whether you eat or drink or hunt, you do all for the glory of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things of the earth. If you do want to know more about our faith, though, or if you just have any questions related to hunting, specific Gamelands, trail camera strategy, or literally anything else, please send them our way at thevineoutdoors@gmail.com. That's thevineoutdoors@gmail.com. I should also add, if you have an epic success story, or just want to share some awesome trail cam photos with us, or anything else, you can also send it to that email. Anyways, that's it for now, boys. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, share with your hunting buddies, and stay tuned for the next one. This lends itself to some great... joking. Not ideal.